All right, I have started and we have attendees that are coming in. Just takes a few minutes. Welcome, everybody. As soon as this number stops going up over here.
Oh, good.
All right. All right, Shauna, I think you're on.
All right, awesome. Well, welcome everybody to our fourth and final Wednesdays with Women in celebration of National Women's Small Business Month. I'm so happy that we've been able to continue these women in business seminars, even though we're in this virtual world now. It's very important for all of us to get together, and I think we've covered some great topics, and we're going to cover another great one today. I do want to thank all of our sponsors, which include our series sponsor, Medic Ambulance, Toro University, California, Crystal Properties, who's sponsoring today's webinar, and Vallejo Insurance Associates. So thank you to all of our sponsors. Also want to say a really big thank you to all the women on the committee that made these events possible. And that's Helen Pearson of Medic Ambulance, Jana Modena from Assembly Member Timothy Grayson's office, Tina Fowler from the Vallejo Chamber, Jean Kilkenny Turk at the Vallejo Chamber, Josette Lacey, who is from Supervisor Erin Hannigan District 1's office, Gina Snyder Consultant, Annette Taylor with the City of Vallejo, and Andrea Garcia from Toro University, California. Without all these women working on this, this would not be possible. So thank you all so much to our committee members. We have with us today two moderators, Tina Fowler with the Vallejo Chamber and Josette Lacey, who I introduced before, but is also this year's president of Seroptimus International of Vallejo. So thank you both for moderating today. And our facilitator today, who's going to teach us some things on how we manage to do it all, is Supervisor District 1, Erin Hannigan, chairwoman of the board for the Solano County Board of Supervisors. So welcome, Erin.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, ladies, for putting this seminar together, and what a wonderful way to reach out and really probably get a much greater participation because we are virtual. You don't have to get in your car and drive anywhere. You don't have to change your clothes from one event to the other. I've really enjoyed this actual time of sequestering. I hate to say it that way, but it makes it easier to do a lot more things if you're not on the road driving from one place to another. And look at all the shaking heads. Yeah. So we'll go ahead and just start with our panelists and let them share with us how do they do it all? And we all find ourselves in different stages of our life. And so we have panelists from all different stages of life. And I think it would be fun to hear about what works for them and what makes their life successful as they're trying to tackle the myriad of roles that we as women juggle. And so with that, I'd actually like to, you know what? Let's introduce all the panelists. How about that first? And I'm going to go ahead and have them introduce themselves, and then we'll talk one by one, and maybe we'll switch it up a little bit. And when you introduce yourself, give us a brief description of like a real trick that you use that helps you be able to do all the things that you do. So I'll go ahead and get started with Sakina Ali.
Wow. Okay. I wasn't expecting you to go first, but you're good. Hello, I'm Sakina Ali. I'm a commissioner from the Solano Women's and Girls Commission. And a trick that I do to kind of balance it all is knowing if I'm going to be okay the next day. So having that conversation, if I'm going to be okay the next day, then I'm okay right now and I could do everything I need to do.
So you set up your schedule so you can fit everything in. You don't have
to overlap. But I don't know if we were going to go into detail or not. I thought we were just
later.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sakina. And then Delphine Metcalf-Foster, why don't you share with us, what's your one trick to be able to do it all?
Oh my gosh, I have no idea. Yeah, well, I'm Delphine Metcalf-Foster. I'm retired United States Army, a retired federal government employee, and retired national commander for the PAV. I really don't know. I think I'll just have to put it on my family, number one. I was born and raised here in Vallejo, and my father was a Buffalo soldier. I had a strong mom, and I was just kind of driven behind what I saw in Vallejo, what I saw as my parents had done, and knowing that I wanted to be better, and I just went after it. So that's pretty much about me. I am a mother, I'm a grandmother, I'm a great grandmother. I have a granddaughter that's a retired Iraq, Afghanistan veteran, which I'm very proud of, and a great son-in-law who just went into the Army.
Wow.
Well, thank you to your family and your many generations of service to our country. Very, very appreciated and honored to have you here today.
Good to be here.
Thank you. All right, Donna Scoates-Nixon, what do you do what's your little trick that lets you be able to do everything you want to do? And I love the yes behind you.
Thank you. That's my motivation wall for while I write. My trick is something called, it's basically a mind shift. It's called it's wording. Either I have to do something or I choose to do something. So I have learned to choose wisely on what it is that I want to do and the things that I want to devote my time to. And that happens with age. So it literally is words and a mind shift, and it makes all the difference, to the point where even losing weight, as you, Erin, have seen, for me, I have chosen to change my way of eating as opposed to I have to diet and lose weight. So it comes down to the words. And so with those words, I then literally just sit down and figure out, is that going to fit into my day? Is that going to fit into my long-term goals? If not, then I don't do it.
Oh, very smart.
It's only taken me 57 years to figure all that out, by the way, but yes.
Well, thank you for sharing. Maybe we'll have a shorter learning curve.
Yes.
Ms. Donna Quarles, please share with us about yourself and what your one trick is.
Okay, my name is Donna Quarles, and I am a business and personal life coach. I've been doing this for over 15, 17 years, depending on who's counting. And the shift that I have is that I've learned a long time ago how to breathe, which is a real great task that people forget. Most of my clients come in going, how you doing? I'm good. And I'm like, whoa, stop, breathe. And I'm a solution-driven person. So when I hear it, my mind throws it into how do I solve it? So I immediately think into not the problem, because the problem in my head says, no, there's a solution. And I immediately start thinking, okay, you gave me an objective and now I'm going to throw it back to you as a solution. And it really quickens the pace of solution. So that's my key.
That's wonderful. I've spoken in different panels on this very topic, like how do you get it all done, or how do you do everything how do you juggle life, how do you do, the whole bit. And it really does come down to prioritizing. And one of my tips in the past, and it probably is still something that I do now, and that is, Jose's going to start laughing. Make sure you have enough underwear that you don't have to do laundry every single week. Oh
my God.
If you're not spending your time doing laundry, you're gonna have more time to do other things. And so don't let that hold you back. That was kind of my thing. But I love the idea of prioritizing, and maybe we'll go around the panels and ask, how do you prioritize? So, and what are the things that you rank higher, and how have you noticed that your prioritization has changed as we go through our life cycles. So, Delphine, I'll start with you.
I think it's family, number one. Number one with me is family. And like I said, I go back to my background and see what my forefathers had to deal with. So my priority is family. I'll never forget, I'll just tell you a little story. When I was asked to run for national commander, and it was years prior to being national commander, I said no, and all the guys and what have you, was wondering, well, why she said no, being the first female, first African-American female. And I guess they thought that was, the problem that they were having with it, because it was just something that they wanted, but nothing I wanted. They asked me why, and I says, my family. My husband was ill at the time, and I said, you know, he had dementia, Alzheimer's. I was not going to travel or anything, so it was family, and I kept that way. And as the guys always say about me, just ask her, and she's a straight shooter. MSNBC mentioned that the other day when I was on their TV program. You know, we were talking about finance, and the one thing the lady started with was, well, I hear you're a straight shooter, and I will be too, and answered the question. And so that's my thing. It's family first. I guess when you get to my age, and I think I'm older than anyone on the panel, you look and you see where is really your priorities. I mean, do I want a title, or, you know, that's there, you know, do I want an education, you know, hey, yeah, that's there, you know. So its priority is my family. It was my mom's and dad's family, and it continues to be mine.
I think that's a good one.
Mhm.
Hard to argue. Sakina, how about yourself?
For me, what I prioritize is, honestly, it's different every week, because our days and our months and our life is completely revolving and evolving on different aspects to, like, you know, is it, for me, it's school, is it work, is it family? But what I learned that I need to prioritize, and we all often don't, is our mental space, right? And so I've been working on that, of how do I feel right now? Like, am I okay to do this? If I'm not okay to do this, like, am I gonna, like, harm myself physically? Am I gonna harm myself mentally while trying to get this done, this, like, task done? Because at the end of the day, nothing is more important than your health, right? I feel like we have so much pressure, and we give so much pressure on ourselves to, like, get this completed. And yeah, we do have deadlines. We do have, like, we have to get stuff done. Like, you can't tell your boss, oh, sorry, I was, like, lazy, or I was too tired, I couldn't do this. I do get that. But if it's gonna harm my mental health, I have to have that conversation with myself again to say, okay, I need to stop. Like, I can't do this right now. And more so likely, if you're open with that, and you have that discussion with yourself and the people who expect something from you, they're gonna understand, especially in these times, right? I think more so than ever, we need to give our mental health that prioritization in our lives.
That's a really good point. I don't, life, okay, maybe during COVID, but definitely pre-COVID seems so busy, and you can get on this roller coaster and you start, or treadmill, if you will, and you go, 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 go. It is important for us to stop. And I mean, some people meditate. I've tried that. It's very hard for me. I can't push my self-talk out of my head. But if I could just sit and be quiet, and just sort of reset, almost like we do with have to do with our phones every once in a while, then my headspace becomes a little bit more organized. And so I understand that. I think that's a really good point. Donna, Quarles. How about
I prioritize by something I just put into practice for myself and my clients, is that I spend at least 20 minutes talking to me about what do I need to do today. And it's first thing in the morning, like, what is my priority for me today? Because before I put myself out there, I've got to be in check first. And by doing so, I'm then ready to say, okay, that was a priority, that was priority, that's not a priority. So I get it off my chest. It's not like I didn't get to it. It wasn't a priority. It was just something in there. And my clients, one of them texted me in the morning. She goes, I spent 45 minutes with this list. I can't believe how productive I'm going to be today, because she spent the time with them, with yourself. We don't do that at all, because we're so ready to run in to help and do something for someone else. And it has to be us first. And when we take that time to say, what have I done for myself at the end of the day? And if you have a sheet that's blank, you need to revisit that, because that will make a difference for you. Because I know the list is long about what you did for others, but make the list of what you did for you at the end of the day, and it'll see how much you are doing for you.
So a reflection.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Donna, Scoates. Nixon.
Well, it's interesting that she brings that up because I write about that in my book. But
Tell about your book. Talk a little bit about your book, because it really is about a self-help.
it is. It's about taking the pause in life that we have all been forced into with COVID and making it work for us into changing our lives, changing our path, and prioritizing. Quite honestly, it's prioritizing our lives. So the book is called You Don't Need Anyone's Permission to Live Your Best Life. And that comes from the fact that I've talked to so many people through the years that they had unbalanced lives and had trouble prioritizing themselves. They were so busy focusing on everybody else's needs that they couldn't even figure out what they needed. And then their life became unbalanced, relationships faltered, their health faltered. I read about one woman who was grieving herself, literally grieving herself, because she had done so much for everybody else that she no longer felt she identified her own needs. So I wrote this book to help us, women in particular, find our way back, find ourselves through this whole new reality that we're all dealing with. I have a friend that may or may not be on the panel that one time told me I was no fun when I was working because I had, because I couldn't go out and play one night, and I had no balance in my life. So it became evident to me that I needed to, if I was going to do all this and do it all for everybody else and bosses and other people, I needed to figure out a way to do it for myself. And so the priority really, it came down to prioritizing myself, which is something that we all have trouble with. And I write the book to help us along with that, but it also helped me in writing the book, just as a constant reminder that it really comes down to, we can do it all, but we need to learn to do it for ourselves. And that's really, I think, the most important thing, is if we don't do it for ourselves, we're going to slowly not be able to do it for other people as well in our life. So, and I'm prioritizing family and relationships. That's the most important thing, as we all discovered during COVID.
Yeah, it really is. And I don't think one either supersedes the other. It's, I think it, you know, I prioritize family as well as, and myself. You know, I think about, you know, what is it that makes me more successful every day? Well, for me, if I go to Orange Theory and I, you know, run around on a treadmill and lift some weights for an hour, I am good to go. I'm shot off into the universe. I'm ready. And well, for me, that was always a priority, you know, so to set it at a certain time, I'd always schedule it ahead of time. Josette can tell you, it pops up on my calendar. Here she goes. That hasn't been the case with COVID because, of course, you know, gyms and what have you. So I really have to, I'm feeling off balance. I've got to get that back into my life. But I think there's a piece of that we need to think about, and that is guilt. When we choose one thing over another, or one activity over another, and do we, you know, how do we deal with that? Gosh, I had to put that aside. And maybe Donna Scoates-Nixon, should I call you Donna S and Donna Q? I'll do that.
Sure. Sure.
So Donna S, what do you have to say about guilt? I mean, do you ever feel guilty about things or activities that might drop off of your calendar because it just doesn't fit, or it may never fit?
Right, it may never fit.
Yeah.
I used to feel guilty. I don't feel as guilty anymore because I feel so much better. You, Erin, yourself, we've talked about this, the difference in me and just how much better I am, happier I am doing me and doing the things that I prioritize as I feel important in my life. I've learned to not feel guilty 98% of the time. There's always going to be things that I feel I should be at, but the things that are important to me, I do make the time to do. And it goes by gut. Like I'm going down right now once a month down for a week to Southern California to help my stepmother move, as you know. and that has been a priority to me. In the middle of my book being shopped for publishers, I mean, just all this stuff that I have going on, that is a priority to me. I would feel guilt if I did not take the time to do that, because that is important. Family is so important. But I think that the guilt has slowly dropped as I have learned to accept that I'm, quite honestly, most important in my life. And the other people are important to me. But if I am not good, if I'm not balanced, if I'm not healthy or happy, then I'm not going to be any good to anybody else. So I think that outweighs the guilt in my world anyway.
Oh, that's a really good point. Delphine, do you ever feel guilty about things that drop off your schedule or activities you can no longer do because something else has gotten in the way? That
Oh, no. No. When you pay your dues, you say, hey, whatever happened, it happens, you know. Talk about it. I'm a swimmer, you know, and the pools, of course, and things close. And I thought about it. Oh my gosh, I can't swim anymore. But I never forget when I had a knee replacement. My doctor was telling me, you have to exercise and what have you. And it was raining at that time. It was about November or December that year. And he said, well, you have to get out there and walk. And I remember all of a sudden, it just hit me. I don't have to get outside to do exercise. I can walk from my patio to my front door.
yes.
20 minutes a day, 3 times a day. You know, I can sit on my couch and use my bands. I can do whatever. So I guess being that we've had to improvise a lot in the military and in the government and what have you, it doesn't really get to me when things are taken away like that. It's just like, okay, sit down and think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Is it really that bad? Have I been in something a little worse? Which I have, of course, you know, in combat. But I think, okay, let's get it together. Now, my kids and grandkids, of course, don't like that. Oh gosh, here she comes. You know, she has a solution. But I tell them just to sit and think. You know, it doesn't take, you know, a rocket scientist to sit and think. There's a plan B. You are in a desperate zone. You know, a plan B is there. Just sit and think about it. So I have gotten a little bit past that, you know, which I still love swimming, and I'm able to go now up in Fairfield for 3 days a week, which I used to go 5, but I learned to adjust. You know, I said to myself, if I've adjusted this far to what, you know, things we've been through, I think it's, you know, it's a piece of cake now. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I try to mentor a lot of the young people to give them, you know, my philosophy about things and how I overcame. And a lot of people like to say, well, you know, at your age, you know, you're modest. Yeah, you know, being a mother going into the military, you know, in my 30s, I mean, you know, it at the time it was uncalled for. You know,
Yeah. Unusual.
It's very unusual, you know. So I guess my little background for going against the odds have really been there. And like I said, oh, Delphine takes care of Delphine, believe it. You know, believe that. You know,
I love I love your comment about improvising.
oh yeah.
You know, when the gym shut down, I was like, what? So now what? You know, I've got this, I put on my clothes, I, you know, get my little heart rate monitor and I go to my thing and I do it and I'm done. And now I've got to think about a different way to exercise. And you know, I'll walk every once in a while, but it was sort of a jolt to the system, if you will.
Yeah, that's why I took up swimming, because I have both hip replacements and I have a knee replacement. And everybody says, you're still going. I mean, no, you just improvise. You sit and think about it. Okay, what can I do? As I always tell my young mentees, you know, you're going to get in situations. It's not going to be a straight road. Okay, so hey, you have to sit and say, well, what's my options here?
Powerful.
Sakina.
I think it's important to recognize, though, that you keep that goal in mind.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it was a very pointed thing for you, Erin. I've got to figure out how I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to figure out this, as opposed to just sitting back and going, yeah, the gym will reopen when COVID's over and I'll get back on track, right? I mean, there was a priority for you to say, I want to keep this. This is important to me. This is something that I value. And so I'm going to make sure that I keep my focus on that, despite all of these other things and come up with the improvisation of, okay, I'm gonna walk back and forth from the patio because I'm not walking in the rain, type of thing. But it was important to recognize that that was a priority and a goal for you, and to keep those in focus despite what's happening around us.
Right.
And it may not be ideal, you know, it may not be the best alternative, but it is an alternative. It is an alternative that we could always deploy, if you will. Yeah, and walking, I mean, I'm a huge promoter of walking. It's so easy, it's so simple. You just need some, you know, good walking shoes, and out the door you go. And it doesn't cost much, just what you wear. So, Sakina, how about you?
I feel like I do feel guilty, you know. I feel like I'm at that stage in my life where if I don't grab onto an opportunity, I feel like I'm missing out, right? I'm still trying to find who I want to be, where I'm supposed to be, right? So I do feel guilty in that sense. But then I also recognize that might not be guilt, it might be regret, right? They're both there. I feel like they're obviously different concepts, but they coincide with one another to a certain degree. And then, you know, with different situations in my life, I used to feel guilty, but then I realized like they were like harmful, like, you know, me not prioritizing certain people or certain like things that I wanted to do in my life, it was actually like harmful because like it wasn't giving me the space that I needed for myself. And like at the end, I was like, why am I investing into others or other things that aren't really benefiting me internally or within my community or whatever my purpose in life is, right? So I feel like I'm both, depending on the situation and what route I want to take. But essentially, like I'm learning to not feel guilty, right? At the end of the day, we got to do what we have to do, and we're gonna have to adjust to however life is, and we have to improvise, as you guys were all saying at the end of the day. But it is rough. I do think, as you know, you had mentioned in the discussion a little earlier, you were just saying that, well, with age, you know, you get that like understanding, right? And I think like that's so important that we need to like have these conversations, because like as someone coming from and trying to learn how to like adapt to that, like learning your all experiences helps me understand, okay, well, it's okay. Like you guys are all successful. You guys have you all, not guys, sorry, you ladies, you ladies all have your stuff together, and that's different in everyone's book, right? What you have, how you do it all is different to how she does it all is different, and that's okay. And so I need to recognize that, and I address it again, and it's having that conversation like, okay, well, you know. But yeah, so that's kind of my answer, kind of all over the place, but
well, no, that's fine. I think, Sakina, you bring up a very good point. And, you know, guilt has a negative connotation. And I think it's something that particularly mothers with young children, you know, when we're working and we've got a husband and we have, you know, our outside interests, you know, we tend to lay a lot of that on us. Like, you know, is dinner ready? Or, you know, are the kids' homework done? Is it, and we just go, it's all my place. And then if something drops, you're like, but you brought it up in terms of opportunity cost. And that was that choice, you know, do I go this direction or do I go that direction, or do I not go that direction anymore? Because there's going to be something down the road that is going to lead me in the better spot. Exactly. I think that's what's wonderful about all the panelists is, you know, we run a variety of ages and positions in our lives and situations, and we are coming with our experiences. And Sakina, you're coming up and in the world and you're doing wonderful things. How fortunate for you to have these experiences and be able to share with your peer group, you know, whenever you're able to do that. I just think that that's great. Ms. Donna Q, now, I know you're going to tear up guilt. I'm okay with it. But
well, you know, it's when you say guilt, it's such a negative connotation in my head, because in order for me to feel guilty, that means I let down someone, which means it really had nothing to do with me. I'm taking someone else's issue in putting it on myself. And you can't be guilty unless you physically, emotionally take it.
Mm-hmm.
So in order for me not to feel guilty, I'm like, wait a minute, that's not, I have this thing about sandboxes. You stay in your sandbox when you're doing things.
Mm-hmm.
And you look around to see what's surrounding you and say, do I want to jump out of the sandbox to touch that? And if it's a positive thing, absolutely. But if it's not, I'm like, I'm good. And I don't feel a lot of guilt. And again, you spoke about age. Back in the day, I would run around and I couldn't help but not, oh, you need this, oh, you need that. And then I go home exhausted. And say, I didn't have any guilt. I didn't have any guilt because I was killing myself because I was doing everything for everyone. And then because of my coaching practice, it shows me, because I have clients that come in here, I'm so guilty of what I haven't done today. And I'm like, stop. What did you do for you? What didn't you do that was really important for you to feel that guilt?
Mm-hmm.
Who did you disappoint? And will they be okay because of it? I literally take it piece by piece, because we don't have to feel as guilty as we put ourselves to. We put more guilt in what they're trying to give you. It's like a lot of people are like, oh, that's okay, I'm good. And you're like, oh, okay. You wasted all that energy. Huh?
And you'd say, I didn't sleep last night over it.
Right. Exactly. And they're like, oh, no problem. You're like, oh my gosh, I wasted all. So just take a minute and say, if this doesn't happen, how will I be? Just fine. How will they be? Not so good, but I'll call them tomorrow. Something else I add to people's stress level, because I have one of my clients that has a lot going on and being asked a lot. And I said, do you ever say no? She's like, what? I said, okay, it starts with an N and ends with an O. And I said, what I need you to do is this. When something comes through that you have no room for, I want you to say this. I'd love to do it. However, I have no bandwidth right now to get that for you.
Mm-hmm.
I could do it in a couple of days, give an option, but right now I have no bandwidth. This way you don't feel guilty about running to the fire, because it wasn't really a fire.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I deal with not having guilty.
Well, good for you. I was just pulling, because I have my computer is elevated at my house, but I have this, I'm actually going to gift this. This is going to Miss Tina Fowler. I was talking to her about this book series yesterday, and it's the 4 Agreements. Have you heard about the 4 Agreements?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. So there's, and this book, it has the mastery of love and the voice of knowledge. And it really, what it does is it sort of strips those societal norms and expectations that we place on ourselves, because we take them and we put it on us. It's not necessarily put on us. And it's how do we see things? And again, when you talk about guilt, somebody may say, oh, you should be guilt, or you should have done this, or you shouldn't have done that. And it's putting it into your own words to say, well, no, I mean, I prioritized it, and I may not have done it, today, like you may have thought I should have. I actually have time tomorrow. And when I do it tomorrow, I'm going to have a much more clear headspace to be able to produce a product that, is worthy. So this is actually a really good series of books, but the 4 Agreements is, it's pretty cool. And so anyway, so I'll put that down. One of the things, as we go through life, we collect friends. And I don't know if Sakina had this experience yet, but then you find yourself in a time period where some of the friends you may have collected may not fit with where you are currently. And none of you here are these people. But I can think about folks throughout my life that, at whatever the timing was, whether I was raising kids, and we happened to be in, parents of kids in whatever sporting activity, and we were good friends then, and then kids grow up and go different places, and and you kind of shed people, and you collect people, and you kind of shed people. I mean, tell me about that experience. What, how does that manifest itself, if you can think about a time when that happens? Because we also do it with organizations. We may be connected to a particular nonprofit or some kind of organization that, for whatever the cause is, and then given what's happening in our lives, we may shift, and that may not be the cause we're at now. And so making those changes, it kind of comes back down to prioritizing as well. And so Donna Q, if you could speak to that.
Wow. I shift really well. That's hard for me to immediately say, because I always prioritize what's going on in my life, because I make different names for things. Literally. So I have a pre-existing condition that I've renamed my minor setback, because it was giving too much power for me not getting stuff done. Okay. And anything that comes up, I shift it so I can swallow. That is, if I can swallow it, I'm good with it. And again, age. When I was younger, oh my God, I drank the Kool-Aid, and it wasn't Kool-Aid. Okay. It was bad things for me. And I feel that when we take our time to spend more time with us, we find how great we are. We don't think about how great we are. We really don't. My job as a coach is to tell you how great you are, and I can see it immediately of things you don't see. Now they give it back to me, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I still can't see it sometimes. I'm like, what are you saying? Because I'm not ready to receive that. Right. I think the more that we take the time to spend time with it, we are such great beings. I mean, Erin, you are such a phenomenal being in things that you've done in your life. And I see you on a daily, and you have no vision about how great you are, because you wait for the next issue to come up that you have to handle and shift it to make sure you can do the best you can to fix it. You're the fixer, when you can. And when you can't, you try even harder. It's watching people like that in my life, and watching my history of my mother, she is the one that guided me through all the things that were going wrong. And she goes, that's not going wrong, honey. It's just not right now. It's not yet. It's stand down. It'll be your turn. Be patient with yourself. And I think my patience has really helped me get through all the things that I have going in my life. I'll say more in a minute, but for now.
Yeah, we'll move on to Delphine.
Yeah, patience is something that I have also. Even growing up in Vallejo, like I said, I was born and raised here. I had very few friends. And everybody think, oh my God, Delphine has so many friends, No, I was the one, of course, that came to if something happened. Oh, Delphine, something happened. Go beat up somebody, of course. Delphine was the one. I was the tallest girl. I really had Delphine. Delphine. Got me in the army, But anyway, yeah, I had very few friends. And I guess one reason why, my family, like I say, my dad died when I was 5, and my mother kept us very, close to her and what have you. But I can name my friends on one hand. In 1967, I moved from Vallejo and moved to Berkeley. And I never forget my best friend, and she's deceased now. Her name was Vivian. And she would, I'd come back every month to visit her, and she said, Delphine, I miss you so bad because you were my best friend. We went from grammar school, high school, junior high, all together. I didn't really have a lot of friends, like I said, because of my upbringing. Okay. And never really wanted them. People say, Delphine, even my career, so many people gravitate you because of certain things. I've always been very cautious about people. And it paid off. It paid off. They would, suggest me to run for this or run. No. I've always knew my friends. And I think, like I said, coming up in Vallejo, being a teen mom, having been married early, all these things have made it very cautious for me. And when I say that, people say, you were a teen mom, but you did all that? And I think it's because I didn't have that many friends. I made my decisions with the people that I trusted, and there were very few people that I trusted. Okay. But it was great. Like I say, and I think that's why I want to give back, especially to the young people. I was telling Tina the other day, Antioch and Pittsburgh had asked me and 4 more other women to come over there to talk to their 7th and 8th graders in both of those towns. They rented the fairgrounds, and they had all the young ladies had a girl power. And they walked in there, and I was just looking, I said, oh my gosh, these young ladies are in here listening to us. And what they did, they had asked 5 of us females that were trailblazers to come in because we needed to talk to young people that age. And I thought about myself, and sometimes looking at some of the young girls while I was there talking, how they were sitting by themselves and maybe just was listening for somebody to just give them some inspiration. Maybe they didn't have it, maybe nobody was there. And I thought, this is very interesting. I was like that too. I would listen. I wanted to hear somebody. I didn't want to, I didn't get my degree until I was 59 years old on the GI Bill. It came out, went to Sonoma State University and all that good stuff. I didn't have that chance to get a degree early, but I got it. Was there a girl there sitting there that maybe listened to that? Oh, maybe she doesn't have that opportunity. But I always say a child cannot be what a child cannot see. You can say pretty much anything, I think, but if I don't see that person and I can't touch that person to talk to that person, I think it's kind of going in one ear and out the other. And that's the way I was. So that's what I was telling Tina the other day about giving back to my community, but especially to young people. I wish I had, the city was that way then, where they could say, okay, because you made a mistake or because you whatever, didn't ostracize you, but brought you into the fold and said, okay, this is what we're all about. I'm going to show you how to do this. We're going to show that. And that I'm getting off on another subject, but that's what I've been about. I know people say, we want you here and there, but I'm very particular about where I go and where I talk to and who I talk to.
Right.
Okay.
Well, this kind of goes back to Donna Quarles' comment about timing, so timing going to college wasn't right for you. It was right at 59. It just wasn't right earlier in your life. And
be surprised where I put that degree.
Take what?
Be surprised where I put my degree.
What is your degree?
I said you'd be surprised where I put it.
Oh, where'd you put it?
I put it right in my bathroom. Come on, tell me, what is your degree? I said, you didn't, you know what? I didn't need that. I didn't need that to get where I am, or did I?
Yeah.
And so when the young people say, oh my, not that I don't treasure it, but sometimes you have to go another avenue and you can still make it. And sometimes you make it even better because you've had life lessons.
Sure.
Right. Yes.
That is a bonus. You are the smartest woman on this panel. You know that because
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm retired.
So what about opportunity costs, Sakina, and transitions, and what does that look like for you in terms of making those decisions of now? Are you in college?
Yes, so I go to UC Davis. I'm a senior currently.
And you're majoring in
communication and religious studies.
Oh, wonderful. Very topical.
I did want to go briefly touch on the topic about friends, and I think I feel like I have a strong understanding about that because of my priority. And one of my priorities, and the way I identify myself with, is a Muslim woman, right? And I'm a very practicing Muslim woman. And one of my priorities is praying my 5 times, in a day. And oftentimes people don't recognize that, right? And the way Muslims pray is not necessarily the same idea of what you would assume when someone's saying they're praying, right? So I recognize that this is something that I'm going to implement in my life, and people who are not about it, or who don't agree with it, or who are not comfortable around me because of it, they have to go, because that's something that I understand that I can't sacrifice, right? And but with that being said, I learned to be comfortable with myself. So when I have a meeting, or if I have something, I have to tell myself, like, I have to step out because it's time for my prayer. And I'll tell someone, oh, hey, like, I'm gonna step out. And if that space doesn't allow me to step out, sorry, the sun is hitting. If that space doesn't allow me, I don't necessarily want to be in that space, because sometimes, like, you got to test at that time and you can't get it changed. Ooh. And that's a totally different thing. But if I'm gonna put myself out there, if I'm gonna be in a space that I'm dedicating my time to you, like, I need you to understand my priorities. Yes. So I think that kind of overlaps with, like, friends, and, like, any opportunity that any job opportunity that I receive, any internship, anything along those lines. I always said, do you have the availability to allow me to go ahead and do my prayers, right? And if they said no, and I said, unfortunately, I can't be a part of this. I can't give you my time, because, like, that's something that I'm not willing to sacrifice, right? So I think having that core values and those priorities are really important. And we need to have that conversation with ourselves. Like, what is that? I said mental space, but, like, sometimes we lack that, right? Or eating food. Like, I don't eat. I sometimes I just, like, forget about eating. But, like, that's something, like, I need to have a conversation with myself. But, like, my prayers, that's something that I'm not willing to budge. So it's really important to see where you're going to sacrifice and where you're not. And that will help you understand what you need to do in that day, or that week, or that month.
That's amazing. You are amazing.
Yeah, she is amazing.
I'm sorry. I this is the first time I'm getting to know and hear you. You're amazing. All I kept saying is, my God, she's such an old soul, which is a compliment, by the way. Yes. It's you need to speak out loud, because these children are killing themselves physically, emotionally, and killing themselves because they can't deal with the things that, well, she wants to be my friend. Oh, and she doesn't like her, so I can't be her friend. I'm like, what, really? You need to shout that out loud for people to get, for your age levels to get that, because they are confused. And there's, especially in this, again, Corona, I call it culvert, as in a culvert affair. See, I changed stuff up because things are going on. This is the time where we are very unsheltered, sheltered, but unsheltered as far as and you are just a beacon. I'm sorry, you're a beacon.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Erin, if I may touch on this, because this is such an important subject to me, I didn't want to miss out. I have a chapter in my book called Bye Felicia, and it's about getting rid of those toxic people in your life. And it's not always toxic people. So you talked about guilt and you talked about prioritizing. And that applies to this question, because you can feel guilty about prioritizing what friends you have, what friends you keep, the people that you choose to spend your time with. And a lot of people, I guess, is one of the biggest things to me, because a lot of people hold on to people that they shouldn't hold on to because of guilt. And those people are holding them back from living their best life, doing them, whatever it may be. And it's so important that I'm actually going to be creating a whole nother book specifically on this. But it often happens that people don't prioritize and hold on to those people that they shouldn't. And so what I've done through the years, and I hate to, I'm starting to sound like an old woman because it comes back to age for me, but I've just learned through the years that those people that I was putting energy into trying to stay friends with, that were not giving back and were not reaching back out to me, I'd kill myself to go and get them something for their birthday or call or whatever, and they wouldn't have a clue when mine was. You know, just little things like that. The friends that you invite over for dinner and, you know, they keep postponing or whatever, you know what? Then you're postponed out of my life. I mean, I'm done with spending my energy and time on you.
Yes.
Right? Hello. And I just think that so many people out of guilt hold on to that, hold on to those people. So I'm so glad you brought that up, because it can literally change your world if you let go of the people, those toxic people. Say bye, Felicia, get them out and start doing you and bringing in more people that help you through your life and support you in what it is that you want to do. There's my favorite quote is, drop anything that weighs you down and protect and nourish all the things that uplift you. And that comes down to people as well as many other things, obviously. But I think people, you need to drop those people that weigh you down. So thank you. I just had to put that in.
Yeah, and I just want to chime in on something too, maybe you'd like to read. It's a book called Transformations. And this is a local book. I don't know if many of you know Dr. Karen McCord at Solano Community College. She wrote that book. It was in 1998. And it's called Transformation. And it's about 12 of us teenage moms that we were teenage moms and the success that we had gotten after we became that and what we are now. There's someone in there as a judge. There's people in there that are teachers and professors and lawyers and what have you. And these are local people. And like I said, I don't know if you can't get it, let me know and I can get one for you. But Transformations is something I think would really help you, young lady.
Great. Thanks, Delphine, for that.
I'm sorry, really quickly before you move on though, just to kind of tie back something that Sakina said to the topic that we're talking about today. We're talking about how do you balance it all, and we all have what that all is very different for all of us. But I think Sakina said something that honestly is probably one of the most important things I've heard, and that is that she communicates what it is that's important to her. And I think that, she said, I'm sorry, I would love to take this internship, but if you can't accommodate my prayers, which is important to me, then I can't do it. I wonder how many people would say, well, wait a minute, we'll figure out a way to accommodate that.
Do people
And
have?
I think that's really important, because I think for the most part, when we're defining what it is that is all of it, once we've defined that and we communicate that, I think most of the people that are around us are willing to work with that when we communicate that. So I think that's an important component of having it all and doing it all is owning it and saying, this is important and I'm willing to help you with whatever it is that you're trying to do, or however, as long as it doesn't take away from me. And that communication piece is something that I think we haven't really talked a whole lot about. So I just wanted to kind of point that out for a second.
If I could just add something, and I think Donna Q could, with her experience, could speak a little bit more. But it's really important to create those boundaries in order to do it all, right? If you don't have a boundary for yourself and like that you address with other people, you're gonna, go in a rabbit's hole. Like it's just gonna keep going and going and going and going, and you're not gonna stop. I mean, you all have said like, you ladies gave to other people, and then you were just exhausted. Like you're just exhausted and you're just like, well, no, I gotta do what I need to do. And like creating those boundaries with yourself is so important. Cause like, if you don't do that, then you're not going to know when to stop. And like, when you say your boundaries and people don't understand, like, then you're just like, why am I sacrificing my time for them? So I think that's really important.
Oh, very good points. I think women in the workforce, of course we've evolved over the decades. But we were told, here's your station, here's what you're going to do, this is when you get lunch, or even, and this is when you'll get paid. And we didn't have much of a voice in what our work situations were, or how did it also accommodate what our priorities were, whether it be children or another commitment that we've made. And it's really changed a lot over the years. You know, I had children in a large corporation. I nursed my children, but they couldn't accommodate me, you know, and it was like, I had to accommodate myself in a different way. And now you go to workplaces and they have whole rooms, you know, where moms can nurse bring their babies to work, but, you know, pump at work if you have to. So, you know, the world has changed as we've been growing up, and I can't imagine what it's going to be like, Sakina, for you in 20 years or 25, 30 years, and, you know, what the world is in terms of maybe equality, you know, women in the workplace, and where we are accommodating these real life situations that we put up with on a regular basis.
I want to,
before we move on, oh, Donna.
Go ahead. Yeah, just one quick thing. There's something that I've been able to help people with. When you, for instance, let's talk about money. When you want to raise and it's time for that raising your job and you don't get it, and the manager's like, well, you know, I'm not sure what you did. What I've asked my people to do is send me on a monthly or by whatever monthly deal, the things that you accomplished and the things you need help in. Send me a quick email, because at the end of the year, your boss can say, so what did you do? No, well, why don't you just resend those 4 or 5 or 12 emails back to them so they can write the review? Because what I was getting is the person was like, I can't believe they missed all the things I did. I said, well, how did they know you did it? Mm-hmm. Well, that's their job. No, it's not. Their job is to make sure that you do what that was on the list. It wasn't about that special thing that you did. They had no idea you did something special. Mm-hmm. But you're all mad because you didn't tell them. So we have to remember, you can't ask for something that no one knows about. Right. You need to make sure that you let them know. I did this, and this month, and that month. And this is why I think that I deserve this. And when one of my clients did this, they were amazed at the raise that they got, because they didn't allow the manager to not know what they were doing. They're like, wow, thank you so much. Now, her counterparts didn't like it because they had to then do it the same thing and had to write down what they were doing. But again, remember, you're responsible for you. You have to let people know what great things you're doing.
It's about self-advocacy and
Absolutely.
how we do that. And we could all use a lesson in self-advocacy. Mm-hmm. And so it's great that you bring that to your clients. Josette, you had something to say also?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on something that you were all saying. I think it would be beneficial to our attendees. And it was about friends. I have just a slew of friends, and I'm so grateful for that. But the different, like Delphine mentioned, she's got this, you know, family first, and I'm in awe of that. And I know Erin has a wonderful family. And so that's something that I lacked. But what I did was I grabbed on, and I like how Donna S mentioned about the Bye Felicia. I have a dead to me list. I call it a dead to me. And if I
want to use that, by the way.
It's a good one, but it takes a long time for people to get on that list, and it's a very short list. But when I hear people, and like specifically, I like to address social media a little bit, just the people that are there that are, oh, you know, I don't know, you know, poor me, it seems like everyone's out to get me, or, you know, different things like that. I choose to let that go. I like to bring people around me that are going to bring positive energy, and that, you know, and I could have been friends with them back when my son was in Little League, or when my daughter is currently in the 2nd grade, friends that I worshiped with, friends that I went to the gym with, different types of friends. And I choose to bring in the ones that show me what I show them, and that's a return in the relationship. And hopefully they don't move to the dead to me list, but I just really encourage our attendees to, you know, really surround yourself with positive people that want to believe in you, and that you can believe in them, and that you have that joint. It's not like you're always, you know, like somebody said, you know, when their birthday is, and you're going to do this and that, but then also not looking for that. We're not looking for presents. We're not looking for, you know, accolades, but we want to have like a relationship that's healthy on both ends.
It has
Thank
to
you.
be
Right.
mutual, right? Yeah, thank you
Yes.
for that. And I think, your point of, family may not, I mean, your family now is a priority, but, family may not always be the priority because it may not be a healthy space. And so the point of creating those friendships and those relationships around you that support you and what you're doing and uplift you is really, I mean, I can attest to that. Certainly there are down days in all of our worlds in different times and over different reasons. But it's very helpful to have people surrounding, not necessarily insulation, but to know that you value them and they value you just as equally when you're on the same
I
plane.
think, and I'm going to do a gratuitous plug for the first one of these sessions, but the first session that we had in the Women in Business was a group of women defining what it means to be successful or how to be successful doing it your way. And one of the things that Lisette Estrella Henderson, who's our county superintendent, said was you have to find those people, not only the mentors that we all look for, but also the sponsors, those people that when you doubt your own self-worth, they're the people that put your name out there and say, no, this person can do it. And they bring you to a space that you might not even have been in before. And I think that it's important to recognize those people. Sometimes those people aren't your closest friends. Annette Taylor asked the question in the channel, how do you define friends? I think friends can be very loosely defined in different roles. And sometimes our friends are our sponsors, and sometimes, quite frankly, they're not for whatever reason, but they're still your friend. They serve a different role. So I think it's important to recognize that. And I apologize, I had to step out for a minute when we talk about trying to balance it all. My son is currently inpatient at the hospital, and I've been waiting for the phone call from the doctor for about 16 hours. And of course, they call right in the middle of this. So I apologize for stepping out. But I laugh at Josette's dead to me list. She and I share also a dead to me list. And talking about friends and sponsors, if we're in an event together and I see somebody that I know is on her dead to me list that has her corner, it's my job as her friend to go over and help diffuse that and say, okay, I know that person is not her favorite person. So let me go and see how we can help. And I think that my point in bringing that up and looking at this and how do you do it all is you do count on those people. You have those core people that you look at and you share those inner secrets with them. And it's important that you have that in your life. And I think that that's one of the ways that you can do it all because you share that with your friends or sponsors or mentors or whatever role those people play. So I wanted to share that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I saw Annette's question about defining friends. And I think friends, I think everybody who's in your life, whether they're family or friends, you have a degree of a relationship. Some people are all in, like, well, I just got married and, my husband, we're all in. But then I have friends that I have my best friend since 7th grade. I mean, she's my ride or die, but we cannot talk to each other for like 6 weeks and reconnect and be, back in 7th grade again. Kind of, but
that's scary.
But it is important, to have those friends in those different circles as well. So yeah, that variety of, and then how to do it all. Advocacy, we have to be very strong advocates for ourselves. And it is important too to have those advocates that are on the outside that keep you going, who know your best qualities and who could help push you and help you make some of those decisions going forward. So I just want to let, for the attendees that are on the call, if you have any questions of our panelists, please write them in the chat and we will make sure that it gets asked. And I'll just do kind of a free form, tell me what you want to talk about. I mean, we probably didn't cover all the things that make you successful, but what little nugget can you add, or big nugget or nuggets? What do you got?
I'll put out one thing. I had read something recently that I loved. It goes back to my have to and choose to concept. A woman that was upset about the fact that she just was not getting everything she needed out of life because of all of the time she was spending covering everybody else's needs. So she decided to give herself a happiness raise, is what it's called. And to do that, she sat down and wrote out all of the things that she felt like she had to do. And she started prioritizing, there it goes back to prioritizing, those things that she really did indeed need to do, and the other things that really she could let go out of her life to be able to allow herself some self-care time.
Mhm.
And that happiness raise led to a balance in her life. And I just loved that concept of a happiness raise, because we can all relate to raises, as we even talked about, but to be in control of it and to choose what it is that you are choosing to do, to allow yourself a little bit more free time, because we always all complain about time and we don't have enough when we're trying to do it all. And the fact is, you can find some time if you're willing to let go a little bit of something. So
That's very good, Donna. Thank you. Sakina, you look like you're going to say something.
Well, there's a couple of questions here. Shauna had made a comment. You need different friends, fun friends, business friends, heart-to-heart friends, longtime friends, and like 31 flavors. Sometimes they discontinue the flavor.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good.
And then
yeah.
I've got one more here. I'm sorry. Lisette Estrella Henderson said, the panelists have talked a lot about prioritizing. I find this so challenging. What has been the greatest challenge to prioritize, and how did you tackle it? It sounds so easy, and yet it's so hard.
it's true.
Well, I have an anecdote for Lizette. One of the things we share is we're both elected officials, and under normal circumstances, we get invited to way more things than any of us could ever attend. And some groups have multiple events, throughout the year. Other groups, they have, the one big thing every year. And one of the advice that my father gave to me, who was also a politician, and it was, you don't have to go to the same group every time they have something going on. And his rationale was, you can go maybe once a year or once every other year, kind of a thing. If you go all the time and then you miss, they'll miss you. But if you go sporadically or randomly, or you drop it one year and you go back the next, kind of a thing, then they will miss you. They'll be so excited to see you, because it was like, oh wow, you're here, that's wonderful. So not to get the wow, but to actually create some balance in your life. We'll any of our own personal priorities just go out the door if I'm busy with your priority. I have to at some point pull back and go, wow, I'm going to take, okay. And the other thing is, don't feel guilty. Here's a trick. Don't feel guilty about saying, I've got something else happening at that time, when that something else might be you sitting on the couch petting your dog. It's okay. It is. It's okay to say that, because that's valuable time for you. And, maybe a point of rest, or a point of, or, whatever it might be. But I think that we have to be okay with not being able to do it all. Lizette, right on. Exactly. I say during this time, this has been great, because I haven't had to do like 5 costume changes a day running from one to another. Anyway, any other anecdotes for prioritizing? It is hard.
I think you can add into your schedule. I know my father used to do this. You can set in your appointment book, whatever it may be, whether it's old fashioned or on your phone, time for yourself. So you can literally say, I have another appointment at that time. And that appointment is you, just like you're saying, if you're just sitting down petting your dog. But you can set it up as an actual appointment, so that you know that you are setting aside time for yourself, so you don't lose that time.
Very important. There's a couple of quotes I see. Delphine, you put one in there. No has its value. That's a very good point, and it does. Sakina, you rock. Somebody's concerned about being on your dead to me list, Josette.
I responded. Jennifer, you're not on my dead to me list.
And Joellen Mislick with CSU Maritime, she wrote one of her favorite quotes were, people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And that is so true. And I believe that in terms of our interest as it relates to maybe nonprofits or on boards or commissions or, you know, any kind of activity, because I know all of us here are operating in that realm on a regular basis. You know, sometimes you go, wow, I did my time. Okay, moving on to another activity, and that's okay. Oh, here's Gina Snyder. We love Gina. Let's see, what do you got, Gina? Hold fast and let go.
Yeah. I think
Gina also sent me, sorry, Tina. Gina
go
also sent me a link about distance learning, and I put it in the chat. So hope if you're interested in that, it's there as well. Thank you, Gina.
I think when it comes to prioritizing, it really, for me, comes down to, for lack of a better concept, my purpose. You know, when I look at the different boards that I've been on, or the role that I have at the chamber now, or my role in trying to pull together the women's conferences or whatever, when I'm prioritizing, it really is, why am I doing what I'm doing? And so it helps me to prioritize. You know, my boss will tell you, I have been sick the last week with COVID. He would really like me to get a newsletter out. That is part of my job, to get a newsletter out for the chamber. It just has not fit with the purpose and my reason of living. So the newsletter did not, me making sure that this webinar happened, making sure that, you know, Josette and we were all on the same page and we were doing this, that fits my purpose. And so that helped me to find what I was going to work on last week and this week while I've been sick. That it really helps me really kind of say, you know, what it is. But it took me, I'm 46 and I don't consider myself a successful person. I work part-time at the chamber, but yet I do consider myself successful because I'm doing what my purpose is and connecting people and having an impact on the people that are around me. So when you look at, am I successful? Do I have the house and the career and the title and all of those things that people usually call successful? No, but do I feel successful because I'm doing what I want and I'm having an impact on those people because I feel like I'm finally at this point in my life fulfilling that purpose? Then I'm like, okay, I'm doing good and this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So when I look at prioritizing, it really is about, is this filling what I'm supposed to be doing in my life? And if it is, it's an easy decision. Okay, you know what? I'll give up a little more time here or a little time there. And the other thing is, and I shared this with some of the people that we were talking about yesterday when we were planning this or discussing this. Years ago, I attended a panel discussion at PG&E with a lot of very well-respected women leaders. And Helen Burt, who was the Senior Vice President of Regulations for PG&E, said, you know, I finally figured out to hire a housekeeper. And she says, I would come home, I got these great promotions, I had these titles, I was moving up, I was doing everything I want. And I'd come home and she said, I was sitting in the living room or sitting in the kitchen and this tuft of dog hair floated across the floor and I felt like a failure. And she said, I finally went, why the hell don't I have a housekeeper? I'm doing all of these things. That does not fulfill me. That does not give me any joy. And I can afford to do this. She said, so really recognizing what are the things that give you joy and what are the things that aren't, and finding a way around them. And then I'm just going to throw this last thing in there because this is something I dealt with my own child. Having, you know, my son has cystic fibrosis. He had a double lung transplant, and we're very, very lucky that he is here with us today. And one of the things that I look at all the time, it used to drive me insane, Facebook is not always your friend. I would, on the first day of school, especially the first day of college or the last day of school, when everybody else's kids were graduating, and I'm looking at my child, you know, taking all of his energy to be alive and get to his transplant. I looked at that and I would beat myself up and I would be sad and I would say, because I was constantly comparing myself to where everybody else was or where everybody else's kids were. The second I figured out there is no normal, and I quit comparing my life to what was normal, but the easier it was for me to accept that I'm not going to be able to do it all, but I'm going to be able to do everything that I want to do. And he's going to be able to do everything that he wants to do. So I think it's important to kind of recognize those things, and quit comparing yourself, recognizing that people only put on Facebook what they want. You don't always see the negative. And so if you're comparing yourself to that and how to get it all done, you're always going to feel like a failure. So I'm sorry, there's some more questions.
Your comment about purpose, while we're getting to those questions, is very poignant. And our purpose may change, but it's always helpful to be centered, as to what is your purpose. I think Sakina spoke to that. Delphine spoke to that as well. When you're a single mom, your purpose, or a young mother, your purpose is to just keep moving forward, and raising your child and making sure you have housing, and then we get to this point. It's the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We start with those basics, and once you get to self-actualization, it's about where you have your purpose, where you're able to open up your mind to what is your purpose. And yeah, that was a really good point.
So it says it's Shauna, but Jana said she's just logged in as Shauna. So Jana Medina has said, what is important now? And that's what you do first. You do that first. WIN, it's an acronym, WIN, what is important now?
I like that.
Yeah, I do too. So we are in the last 10 minutes of the webinar. And do we have any additional questions from the attendees? No? Yes?
So what I'd like to do is we'll end our webinar. And then if you are an attendee and you would like to turn this into a Zoom meeting, what we've been doing is if you raise your hand, I will add you as a panelist. And what we'll do is it'll bring everybody in to discussion, but we'll stop the recording part of it and just kind of bring it in for a Zoom meeting. So if you are interested in doing that, please raise your hand in the chat and I will start to bring you in. And Erin, if you would like to close us out, thank everyone.
Yes. Well, this is a tremendous panel of women and all spectrums of life. And it's been really a wonderful pleasure to get to know Sakina and Delphine. I don't know you very well, but I know of you, Sakina, from the Solano Commission for Women and Girls, and then Delphine for obviously your lifelong family, Vallejo family, as well as the military service that you and your family has done to keep us all safe. So really want to thank you for that. And want to thank Donna Scoates-Nixon and her words of wisdom. Donna does have a book that is coming out, right, Donna?
Yes, I actually was on with my literary agent this morning in New York. He's getting it ready to send out a proposal next week to get it published. I was going to self-publish it, but since there's interest, then I'm going to go ahead and go that route. So it'll take a minute longer, but I also have an online course being created that'll be available probably at the end of next week, and on the same subject.
Well, I look forward to you sharing that information. And then Miss Donna Quarles, you have a wonderful practice. So here's a disclaimer. Donna and Donna live across the street from me. I am the most fortunate neighbor.
We are fortunate.
Yes, we are.
Wonderful women who live across the street. But I first met them many years ago at Bocce on Virginia Street, which was, or it's a different place now, but next to the Empress Theater. And we've had many years, over a decade of friendship. So that's wonderful. Yes. And I really want to thank everybody, both you, Josette, and Tina, for your input. We all come from different perspectives and we all have a lot to learn from each other. And, it's good when you have strong female friends who you can look up to, who you can hang out with, and who you can learn from. So I really want to thank all of you ladies. And I see you, Miss Andrea. Good to see you. but for all the panelists, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank
Thank you for asking us.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.